In this video, we will work on a Tableau dashboard. If you're new to this channel, I'm Karina. I have over 10 years of experience in data science and data analytics, and now I share my knowledge with other people online. In one of the previous videos, we created a sales performance dashboard in Excel. So today we will replicate this dashboard, but in Tableau. This is how I learn new tools. For example, I'm very comfortable with Excel, and then when I start learning Tableau, I try to replicate the dashboards I already have in Excel, but in Tableau. This way, I already have some goal in mind, what I want to create, and then I just Google my way and watch YouTube's how to get there to that end goal. Tableau Enterprise is an expensive product. However, they always had discounts for students and they have 14 days trial. However, recently they introduced Tableau Public, which allows you to download it for free and practice. Just Google Tableau Public, then sign up for Tableau Public. It is absolutely free. After you created your account, you need to sign in. And here, what I really like, you have examples of various dashboards created by other people. Here you also can publish your own dashboards. I like to look at these pages as an inspiration to see how the data can be presented. Once you're in Tableau Public, there is a tab called Create, and you can download Tableau Desktop Public Edition on your desktop, and that's what we will be working with. So once you download, you can start creating your dashboards. We will be using sales data that I found at kaggle.com, link in the description to this video, the same data that was used to create our Excel dashboard. Now we need to connect our Tableau to the file. You can use various types of files. In Tableau, you can see there are Microsoft Excel, text files. So if you have CSV file, it is a text file, JSON, PDF, statistical data, or you can connect it to SQL Server. You can also connect your dashboard to several data sources. For example, you're working with the marketing data, a part of it is coming from Google Analytics, from Facebook, and the rest is coming from your internal database, and you want to create a sales funnel or marketing funnel and show how many people saw your ad and how many people eventually converted and start using the product. So to create that type of funnel, you need to connect all the data sources, create this one big single source of truth, and then create a funnel. But in this video, it will be a very simple dashboard just so you understand how it works and you can build on top of it. So the first step, we are connecting our data source. Our data is in CSV file, that's why we click text file, and then you need to select your file. I know it's called train 5. Now we in a data source tab, we can preview our data. So we can select how many rows we want to preview. By default, it is 100. We can see all the columns. We can see their data types, and here you can actually make changes. At this stage, you can rename your data, you can make modifications to some of the columns. For example, we can see that our order date and ship date are already in a date format. You can change here from date to date time, or if it was recognized as a number, you can change it to day and date time. In case you have several data sources at this stage, you can connect them, you can make joins similar to SQL. It is possible to make left join, right join, inner join, or union, so stacking all the data. But for this specific tutorial, we are working with only one data source. The next important thing in Tableau, we have worksheets. We have already the first one. Then if you want to create extra worksheets, you click here. This icon is for a dashboard. So once you created all your worksheets, there is only one visual per worksheet. So if in your final dashboard you want to have 10 visuals, you will have to create 10 different worksheets, which then will be added to your final dashboard. And then there is also a data story, which we will not be working with today. Let's quickly have a look at our Excel dashboard and see what visuals we need to create. So at the top, we have our KPI card. Then we have our sales charts, regional performance, product insights, customer insights, and we also have slicers. First visual, I will actually create sales trend, not a KPI. So we go into our sheet. You can rename your tab, right click on a sheet, rename, let's call it total sales. And in our visual, what we have only total sales, and it is represented by quarter and year. All our columns will be located here. If you have a long list, you can search for a column in the search bar. Okay, so we need to find our sales. You can double click and it automatically was added to rows. And we also want an order date because we want to create this line. We do a double click to order date. On the right hand side there is a button called Show Me, and it helps you to understand what type of charts you can create. For example, you want to create a Gantt chart. You can see for Gantt chart you need to have one date, one or more dimensions, or 0 to 2 measures. So this Show Me tab helps you to understand what type of data and how much data you need to be able to create this visual. We can see that on our x-axis we actually have year of order date, but we want it to be quarter. So if you click on this little arrow, you can change this year to, for example, quarter, and now you can see we have quarters and years. If you don't like the visual that you have, you can also change it here. So we have this automatic by default selected as a line chart, but you can always change it, for example, to bar chart, area chart, and you can see how simple it is in Tableau. So you can see how different visuals look like and decide which one works for you best. So here we have a sales, here we have quarter of order date. If you want to edit your axis, right click, click edit axis. Here you can select a title. For example, we want to call it order date, not a quarter of order date. And let's close it. The next chart we want is total sales per year. So let's create a new worksheet. Now let's rename it. And this time again, we will work with sales, but we want to create a bar chart. So again, we drop in a sales as our rows. We drop our order date as columns, but we change our line chart to bar chart, and you can see the whole data is smooshed to left. We will adjust it later when we work with our dashboard, but also you can change the view here. So by default it is standard. You can fit the width, and now you can see it became bigger. You can fit height, or you can do entire view, but we will be making these changes when we work with dashboard, so you can keep it as standard. We already have two visuals. Let's create our KPI card. We are creating a new tab, we renaming it to KPI, and now we want total sales, number of unique orders, number of unique customers, average sales per order. If you watch this Excel video, you know that we don't have number of unique orders as a column, number of unique customers, and average sales. All these three columns need to be calculated. And to create a KPI card, we sort of need to create a pivot chart. So we will drop our sales here as a text. So that's how it will look like. And now we need to create a new column, number of unique orders. So we already have order ID, but we need count distinct or unique number of orders. We will create a new column, go down to this part, right click anywhere, and we say create a calculated field, and we will call it number of unique orders. And here we need to type a formula. So formula to calculate count distinct is count D. So we say count D, brackets. In the brackets you can start typing, and it will give you a list of columns. In our case it is order ID, so we're selecting it. You can see that all the columns are always in a square bracket. Then you hit OK, and we again need to add it as a text, so we adding it here. And you can double check that this number is correct. If you go back to our Excel dashboard, you can see number of unique orders is 4,922, so it's exactly the number we got now. And the next one, we need to create a number of unique customers. So similar, we are creating a new calculated field. Right click here, create a calculated field. Our formula is exactly the same, count D or count distinct, brackets. In the brackets, in square brackets, name of the column, click OK. So now you can see we have the values, but we don't have names of the values, and this is where you need to work with measure names and measure values. The easiest way is actually, let's remove our number of orders and number of unique customers. So once you have the very first value, you take in your next value, you need to grab this data, and when you hover over, it says show me. So click there. This way Tableau already creates these measure names and measure values card for us. It is possible to create a manually by yourself, so you need to drop measure names into filters, into rows, then you need to drop measure values like this by dragging it to the bottom. But the easiest way I find is just by dragging a formula and adding this show more. We added a number of unique customers. We also need to add a number of unique orders, and now we can just drag our value into measure values card. If you want to change the order of the values, in this data we had a sales first and then number of unique orders. So sales first, you just drag and drop all your values. Then we had unique orders. This way you can easily just drag all the values and create the order you want. And one more value we want to create is average sales per order. So we need to create a new calculated field. Again, right click, create calculated field, and we call it average sales per order. And it will be total sales divided by a number of unique orders. So we're selecting the column sales, and we need to divide it by number of unique orders. It says that calculation contains error because we cannot mix aggregated and non-aggregated arguments. To fix that, we need to have total sales divided by number of unique orders. You just say total sales. So we will aggregate our sales, and you see calculation is valid now. Okay, and let's again add it to our measure values card, and we can see the average sales per order. Let's check it here. It all works. If you want to add, for example, decimal points to average sales per order, right click here, you can select format, and here you can change the format of your cell. For example, you want it either custom, you can select how many decimal places, or you want to have it as a currency, and as when you select as a currency, by default you have 2 decimal places. And let's do the same for our sales. Again, format number, and we change it to currency. So we have this type of our pivot table. To create our KPI card, we actually need to have our measure names as columns, not as rows. So you just drag it from rows to columns, and you have it. If you want to rename, you can right click anywhere, and then you click edit alias, and here you can change the name of your columns. But one last thing, in our dashboard we actually had filters or slicers that were affecting our KPI card. This is the time when we can add those filters. So we're going back here, and we adding our order date into a filter, and here you can select how you want this filter work. For example, we want years in our case, and which years you want. You can actually filter our data to make your visual represent only one specific year instead of all the years, but we want all the years. That's why we say all. Click OK, and if you want to see your filter, right click on this field and click show filter. Now you can see your filter on the right hand side, so you can play around and see how a filter affects the numbers. You can also change the view of your filter. So if you click on this little arrow here, you can select how it will look like. So for example, single value as a drop down, as a list, or multiple values. In my case, again, a list, drop down, or custom. I wanted to have as a drop down, so it will look like this, so it occupies less space on our dashboard. And we also have a region filter. That's why we added here as well. We add a filter selecting all the values, and also display as a show filter, and I will change it to drop down as well. Perfect. The next step is original performance. So we're creating again a new tab, renaming it, and again we working with sales, which will be our rows. I remember this visual was displaying top 5 states. So we're dropping our states as columns, but we don't want all the states, we want top 5. So we're going back to filter, and here you can select what you want to filter. For example, if you have nones, this is the way to filter out those nones. So you can see the whole list, and then you go and remove none. So you want to remove a specific state. You can also select wildcard, which if you want something containing a word, for example, a specific condition, or you can select top values. In my case, I want top 5, so we're selecting by field. Instead of 10, we want 5, and here you can select what column and aggregation. Click OK, and we have this original performance top 5 states. And you can see they are not sorted from largest to smallest. If you want to change it, you click on this little arrow, and then you can click sort and select how you want to sort it. You can sort ascending or descending. Again, you can see now for some reason it's not doing what you want because it is sorting in alphabetical order, not by sum. So here sort by, and click into field. You can also do manual. For example, you have a specific order in mind which needs to be followed, so then manually you can move around all these values, but in our case it will be field. So you click on a field, and again you select descending, which field, what aggregation, and now it's sorted from largest to smallest. The next one is product insights. So product insights, again, we work with sales. I need to double check what other values were there. So we work with category, subcategory, and sales. So very quickly we drop in sales into rows, we drop categories, columns, and then also subcategory as a column. And if you want to sort the data, again, we click in here and we can select sort. We are sorting by field, by aggregation from in descending order. So this is how we sorted by category. So for example, the most sales in technologies, that's why it is the first chart. But if you also want to sort it within subcategories, we need to go to subcategory field, click, then we do sort, and here you also select field, descending. Now all the data is sorted within categories and within subcategories. Also, if you don't like titles of your axis, we go here and then hide field labels for columns, for example, and we don't have our category, subcategory anymore. We created product insights and regional performance, but we haven't added our filters. So if you go back to KPI, this is a tab where we added our filters, and you click on a year. You can select apply to worksheet and select which worksheets will be affected by the same filter. So we go to apply to worksheets, and then you can select only this worksheet, selected worksheets, or all of them using the same data set. I don't want all of them using the same data set because my first total sales and sales by year, I don't want them to be affected by the filter. So in that case, we use selected worksheets, and here we select which worksheets will be affected by this filter. It will be regional performance and product insights. And same with a region, click here, apply to worksheets, selected worksheets, and we are selecting what will be affected by this filter. And now if we click on our regional performance tab, you can see that we have two new filters added. We need to add two more visuals, and then we can work on our dashboard. So we need to add customer insights. It will be segment and total sales by segment. Let's create a new tab and call it sales by segment. Similarly, we quickly add a segment as columns, we drop sales as rows, and we have our visual. If you want to remove a title, right click, hide field labels for columns, and it's done. And now we need to create this last pivot chart, which will show us top 5 product sales. So let's add our product name as a text, and also now I want to add sales as details, so also as text. So I drop it here, I also add it as text, and in here in show me I select a table because I want this data to be presented this way. And we also need to filter top of 5 product, so we add product name into filter. Here we select top 5 by field. We want to have 5 products. We change 10 to 5, click OK. Now we have it. Also, don't forget to sort your data. So we are clicking on the product name, we click sort, we change it to field, and we select descending. And you can see all our values are in numbers, but of course we want a currency. So we click here, we select in a format. You can swap between fields, so you can select different format for each of the field, but we are working with some of our sales, so it is correct. And here you go to default, you have a number, and you change a number to currency, and now we have our values. I think we have all the visuals that we need, and now we can work with a dashboard. To create dashboard, we click on this tab. You need to select the size of your dashboard. By default, I always select 1200 by 1200, so you can select a range. If it's automatic or fixed, I select fixed, and I change number of pixels 1200 by 1200. And I prefer working with containers. Someone taught me that, and if you know a better way, please let me know. But I find it easier to move your visuals around when everything is in containers. So the very first step, I add a very first container, vertical container. I drop it here. Also, we forgot to add filters to our last two visuals, and also in this table I had a grand total. So how to add totals to your table? You need to go to analytics part, and here we have summarized, for example, totals cluster. So you drag in totals here to your table, and it asks if you want to have column grand total. You add it, and now we have a total. So very simple. Let's go back to our KPI tab. Again, order date, apply to worksheet, similar as before, but we also add this sales by segment and product sales, and do the same here. We are ready to add everything to our dashboard. So the very first part, we are adding a title. When you add in containers to your dashboard, they can be floating or tile. Floating, they float around. So sometimes, especially with filters, it's easier when you have a floating visual and then you can pin it where you want. Let's select floating, let's select a text. And our text is the title to our visual. Here you can change the size of your text. Let's pick 36 and say sales performance dashboard. Now we have our header. We can move it around because it is floating. Let's add a vertical container. It tells you hold down shift to drop floating objects into container. So I want to drop my sales into a container. So let's hold shift. So now our title is within a container, and if you're trying to drag it, you can see it actually aligned itself. If you want to make changes, you double click, you can do edit text, and for example, I want it to be centered, so we fix it. The next part, we need to add our KPI card. I again add a vertical container, so you can see it occupies the whole space. So what I prefer to do to change the height of this container, so you click to more options, you do edit height, and here, for example, I want it to be 250, so you can play around with this height and this is how much my KPIs will occupy. Let's maybe make it even 200. Now we can drop the whole sheet into this container. So here we have our sheets. We taking our KPI, we dropping it here. You can see now it was added, and our filters were also added. So let's go to my filters. We'll go here and make them floating. So I will just move them around. I will add them somewhere at the end, but at the moment they occupy in the space. So I do it as floating. So now they live on their own. We have this container which was automatically added. We're removing it at all. And now you can see you can work with your filters if you want. Here we have our KPI. It's all mushed to the left. Instead of that, we want to have fit width. Also, we have the title of our tab, which is KPI. I don't want it. Right click and you can select hide title, so we don't have the title. You can see it's all a bit small, and we also have these lines. If you want to make changes to this specific card, we need to go back to the tab. We go into KPI, you click on any of the columns, you select format, and here you can select the font. So for example, we have 9 now, but we want to select 15. You can play around and you can see how it works. And for example, here you can change alignment. We want it in the center. We want it on as automatic. And again, click on your number, select a format, and here you need to go to sheet, and then in a worksheet you change the size of the value. So now it's by default 9. Let's change it to, for example, 12. You can make it bold if you want. And you see we still have these lines. So if you go back to our format and we go here, and it is a row divider. So at the moment we have row divider as some line, but we can change it to none, and now we don't have any of those lines. You can see we selected too much space for our container, so edit height, maybe let's change it to 120. The next step, we need to add this sales trend title. So again, I'm adding a text, changing the size, and I will call it a sales trend. In the middle, click OK. It's not big enough. I will change it to 22. And after that, we want to add two charts. We want total sales and total sales per year. So I will add a horizontal container. I will change the height of this container to, let's say, again, 200. And now we need to add total sales. You just drop the whole tab, and then total sales per year. You add it here where you can see this little gray area, and now you can move around. I don't like the names of my tabs, so I always say hide title in this case. Again, we have here order date. So if you go back to total sales per year and hide field label for columns. Also, we have order date here. So to remove it, we go back to our total sales. You do right click and it offers you to show or hide header, but if you click that, it removes the whole axis, so it's not a solution. So I just do right click, edit axis. Here is the axis titles and the name of it, so I just remove it completely, and that does the trick. So it removes the title of our x-axis. You can see that our charts are not very big, so you can go back to layout, and actually in layout it shows you all the containers, everything that we added, and you can play around with it. So for example, here we added horizontal container. You can select it and now adjust the height. So we selected height of 200. Let's change it to 300. You see we increased it and all our charts increased. Let's add 2 more visuals. We want to have regional performance, product insights. It looks like a horizontal container, so we will drop our horizontal container. We again change in the height. Let's select 300. Regional performance, which we add here, and we also need product insights. We drop in it here. So we'll hide original titles. Let's add a horizontal container as always between these things. Edit height, I will change it to 50, and then we will add 2 texts. So first text will be regional performance, and another text we will drop, it will be product insights. Now we have 2 titles to our charts, and let's also add our custom insights. So again, I drop my vertical container, I change the height to 50 because it will be a title which we'll call custom insights, and the last horizontal container. Now we have all our visuals, but it's time to make adjustments. Of course, you need to align all the titles, make them look the same font. With this container, I would actually make things smaller. We can see that values here are not centered. To fix this, we need to go back to our KPI tab. If you click on a text, you can select the alignment. We want to make our actual alignment center here and center here. The next one, let's double check. It is a 22. Here I don't want to have a title. Here I also don't want to have a title. I don't like how our table looks like here, so we need to select and change to fit width. It is up to you and up to the final users where to add filters. Of course, they can be on a side similar to what we've done in Excel. For example, if you make this titled smaller up to, let's say, 26, and we can put both of our filters here on the top. Let's make it bold. And now the final part is to change in formatting of your dashboard. So we go to Format tab. At the top, we click dashboard, and now you can select the default color. For example, you want it actually gray, not white or even darker gray. And now you can select each visual one by one and make some changes. For example, now our sales performance dashboard, where it is a title, it is gray. You can select this one and change the border. You can change background, so we don't have background now, but you can make it white. And now you actually can go step by step and change things. Because we created containers, it's easier to move things around. So we changed all the titles to white. We have background is gray. You can also go back and, for example, add a border. We don't have a border at the moment, but you can add a one if you want, and for example make it light gray as a solid line. I will show you how it will look like, so it will highlight your chart. So it's very subtle. Our dashboard is ready. It's up to you if you want to add some borders and padding and titles, make something bold, maybe change colors of your visuals. But we replicated the dashboard we had in Excel, we replicated in Tableau. You can see how powerful Tableau is, and as I mentioned before, in the Tableau Public there is a page where people publish their dashboards, and you can see how beautiful they can be, how advanced, how you can change different visuals. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope to see you next time.